What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down the secret to wide receivers running insane routes and getting an insane amount of separation on the routes by doing these things we discussed. So I hope this video helps you guys out, but also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver, we're going to be traveling out to 15 more states if you would like an opportunity to train with us this offseason. We're going to be coming out to San Francisco, Orlando, New Orleans, Charlotte, Dallas, the DMV, St. Louis, Honolulu, Boston, Cleveland, Austin, Texas, Seattle, Newark, Denver, and Los Angeles. So, fellas, it's going to be a 2-day long training camp, 8 hours of training. We'll have DBs out there to work on one-on-ones, man coverage situations to work. So if you guys want to get some work in with us and we're coming to a city local to you, check out that very first link below. We'd love to have you out. Let's get started. So now, first thing we're going to be talking about here, to be able to run insane routes, to get a lot of separation, you have to have more in your tool belt than just a single cut. So we're looking at Justin Jefferson use something called a rocker step. So what is a rocker step? A rocker step is instead of you breaking off of 1 foot at the top of the break, I'm going to play this again full speed, you do a 2-step. You do a 1-2. You want to step to the side that you are going first to threaten him there and then act like you're running maybe, a post, a dig, something inside breaking. So when would you use this type of move? What's the right time to use this type of move? So it would be in this situation. You could use it in other situations, but this exact situation is when we have a DB who's outside shade and we have to run an outside breaking route and he's sitting right at the depth of the break. So like you have to run a 10-yard out and the DB's sitting at like 8 yards outside shade. So anytime that receivers see this look, one of the mistakes that they'll make is they try to just angle their stem and they attack the leverage. We talk a lot about attacking leverage, but they try to attack the DB, stem the DB. But if you try to just stem him and try to step on his toes, when a DB is outside shade, what is he trying to prevent? He's trying to prevent the outside route. So whatever you do, he does not want to give up the out, the fade, the corner. He is trying to funnel everything to the inside to where his safety help is. That's where he wants you to run. So if you just angle your stem off the line and you try to square up with him, he's just going to keep his leverage. And then when you run that out route, you got not enough space for the QB to throw you open. What you want to make sure that you're doing is you're almost splitting the defender in half. You are attacking the inside shoulder because we know we need space to the sideline for my quarterback to lead me. If I don't give my quarterback enough space and I don't get separation, that's on me. He could put that ball out there and that DB would be all over us and he could still pick the ball off even if the quarterback throws it on time, if I don't run a good route. So we have to attack his inside shoulder. Now, a lot of wide receivers, what they'll do is they'll just run right at his inside shoulder. They'll get him to bail and they could break back underneath. But, that's kind of like the basic, step one way of doing this. Step two would be adding maybe a rocker step to it, especially if this DB is disciplined and he is sitting right at the break point. If we're selling the route enough and he bails way out of there, maybe we don't need this. But if he's disciplined and there's some space between us and he's sitting outside shade, this rocker step is a great way to get separation. So he steps to the outside and sells with his hips and his shoulders like he's running that post route. Most important thing when you're using that rocker step is your upper half has to be loose. You have to be relaxed with your upper half. You have to actually take 2 full cuts and the upper half has to sell the inside move. That's what can get at least this DB to hesitate, but now I have space for my QB to throw me open. If you break this route off and you don't have enough space on any outside route, corner, out, come back, and you don't give the QB space to lead, that is on us, and that ball has a very, very high chance of being picked off. So, fellas, to run an insane route, to get a lot of separation, you have to make sure we have more than just one single cut in my tool belt. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Jefferson attacking inside shoulder, using that rocker step, and then winning on the out. Okay, so now we're going to look at this player from Darnell Mooney, and the second thing for you guys to get a crazy amount of separation on your routes is by something we call closing space. So we're looking at a slot fade here. So what a slot fade is, we're pretty much like the outside wide receiver will maybe run a hook, a slant, an in route, and then the slot will run this like fade ball. So let's play at full speed. But the one thing I want you to see is how Mooney is able to close the distance with the DB on his release. Obviously, he made an insane catch right here, but let's talk about the release point. So we got a DB who's off and he's in something we call catch technique. So what is catch technique? Catch technique is where a DB is maybe 2 to 3 yards off, and what he wants to do is essentially catch us and just have us run away from him so he could get hands and squeeze us to the sideline. So obviously he's in man coverage. His eyes are on us. He's a little bit shaded to the inside, so he wants to force us outside. He wants to squeeze us to the sideline and force us to the sideline to make it a tough throw on the QB. So if I go here, what a lot of wide receivers will do is they'll just come off the ball, they'll give a little hezzy move right here, and they just try to run around it. But you are still leaving a gap of space with this DB, and he can still take an angle and play this fade. You have to almost think of it like you were trying to step on his toes. We were trying to get into his cushion to make him uncomfortable, so when I can make this move, I can go hip to hip with him, and they call that getting skinny. So fellas, anytime you're facing a DB who's in catch technique, where there's inside shade, outside shade, right in front of you, we have to make sure we close the distance. Let's step on his toes, because if you were to throw this crossover move, and let's say Mooney was able to throw this move right here, and let's say we got the DB to bite, we still got to get vertical. And he still has enough space where he can be able to recover. Make it difficult on him, make him uncomfortable, and use those feet to get you separation. Now, some of you might be asking, well, what if he gets hands on me? What if I close the space and he gets hands? We're going to talk about that later, how to combat that hand technique in this video. So let's play at full speed. Great job by attacking, great job closing space, and then giving the quarterback also enough space to fade us out by staying skinny on this route. Okay, so now, to be able to get a lot of separation, fellas, you have to make sure that we get explosion off the line. So many people talk about, hey, coach, how can I get a faster release? This is exactly how. So let's watch this example full speed. This wide receiver showcase is a great example of a kick step release. So what is a kick step with your release? So a kick step is where you take this back foot and you essentially kick it behind your front foot as a source of momentum and a source of loading your hips. Now, you see a lot of NFL wide receivers do this. See Justin Jefferson do this, Devontae Adams. Honestly, just about every wide receiver uses this. Some people have it a little bit more subtle than others, but it's a way to create explosion. So if I'm going up against a DB and he's a disciplined guy, right? This is the NFL. Every single DB in this NFL scenario is disciplined because they're the best in the world, right? Top 32 guys in the game. So he's going to need a little bit more to move off of that line than you just taking your back foot and stepping there. So many times guys are very weak off the line because instead of them doing an explosive step where they're stepping outside the frame, their hips and shoulders sell to the outside, and they're actually threatening an outside release, they will just take half of a step and that DB will just sit and stay patient. They're not dangerous off the line. They're not explosive off the line. And that kick step is how you can get that explosion. If you guys are hesitant to try this because you think it might be a false step, that's fine. But I do recommend that you try it once, because when you load your hips up like this, there is so much more explosion and so much more of a threat when you step to the outside. If you go here, if you're doing this release right here, is called a wide step release, by the way. So you step with your back foot and you're trying to step wide, trying to threaten this DB like you're doing just a quick speed release fade. But if there's no speed to that, he's not threatened by the fade. If it's just a weak step and you're stepping just to this line right here, that's not going to threaten him. If you're going lateral, that's not going to threaten him. We need to threaten him vertically, especially when he's head up and especially when there's about a yard of space. So he kicks behind to load up his hip so he can throw his hip and actually step far. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I don't want to step that far because then I can't push and get back to the inside. That's the beauty of the kick step, because it not only loads up your hips, but it loads up your upper body. When you take that step out wide, you can bring your body with the step. So now you're in a balanced, explosive, and pretty much even position to where you can explode out and go. Not to mention, you selling with your upper body and bringing this with the foot is what will get the DB to jump. Because in man coverage, what's a DB supposed to be watching? He's supposed to be watching your hips. So if you bring your hips with the cut, if you use that kick step to load up your hips so you can throw, that is how we get more explosion and more speed off the line. That can get you some more separation, get you a crazy amount of separation. So fellas, we need something off the line. If you want to be an insane route runner who gets a ton of separation, you have to give something off the line that's explosive. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job utilizing that kick step to take that inside release and win on that post or dig route. Okay, so now I mentioned this before. We were going to talk about hand technique and knowing which hand to beat off of the line. So everybody loves to overcomplicate hand technique. Oh, they talk about, oh, well, if he shoots this hand, then you got to shoot this hand, or you shoot this hand to do this, and you got to do this combo. It's way more simple than that. It is about knowing what release you're trying to take based off of your footwork, and then knowing which arm to beat on a DB. So this is going to be that same wide step release that we just looked at. And I want you to pay attention to the kick step. But watch what he does here. Does a wide step, gets the DB to jump. He's only worried about the inside arm. He's not worried about this arm. So he knows pre-snap coming up to the line. Like, let's say he's running, like a dig, for example. He comes up to the line. He sees that the DB is in head-up press. Okay, he's in head-up press. I know that I would like to take an inside release on an inside breaking route. So if he's in head-up press, maybe I'm going to use this wide step to try to get him to jump, and I want to take the inside release. So to get off of press, fellas, DBs are taught to jam with their hands. They're taught to get physical because that screws up the timing with the QB. There was a study that was done by the University of Oregon a few years back, but they said that 7 out of 10 reps where the DB got hands on the wide receiver off the line, they won. So that's 70%. They're winning out of 10 reps when they get hands. So That's not a good number for us as a wide receiver. We have to keep things simple when they get hands on me off the line. So when we go here and we take this wide step release, I'm only worried about this inside hand. To maintain timing with my QB, I just have to get his right hand off of me. I have to get Sherman's right hand off of me in this scenario. I don't even need to worry about the left hand, because even if he keeps the left hand on me, like let's say I swat this off and that left hand stays on my right shoulder in this case, so what? We got off the press. Your separation comes at the top of the route, not off the line. Off the line, it is about keeping timing with your QB and keeping spacing with your QB. So keep things simple. Oftentimes, receiver coaches spend so much time worried about the hand fighting techniques and doing all these different movements that receivers never move their feet. Your feet will set up the hands. So again, like I said, he uses the kick step. He steps outside of his frame, bringing the upper body. And what does that do? That moves Sherman. But he's trying this two-handed jam. That's everybody's biggest nightmare. Well, what if he jams me? What if he gets hands and he's physical? So what? We need to fight the inside hand. If we get him to move off his platform and he's reaching like this, that should be easy work. I could swat with my left hand. I could rip underneath with my right hand. Do whatever you can to get his inside hand off of you so we could get up into the route. So what if his left hand gets on you? Your job is to maintain timing, and your job is to get off of the jam. That's all that you need to worry about. So if you want to get insane amounts of separation, you guys have to understand and keep the hand technique simple off the line. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by this wide receiver using that wide step and then winning on that route. Okay, so if you want to be the next thing to be an insane route runner, to get a ton of separation, you have to be comfortable doing the uncomfortable things, and that's taking like an inside release on an outside breaking route. So that's a very tough thing to do. And that's something that not a lot of wide receiver coaches will even teach you, because it's just a tough thing to do, and it's tough to get separation on this. But if you do it correctly, you get loads and loads of separation. So it's very similar to that Justin Jefferson clip that we talked about, but this is more of like a situation where we have outside shade man coverage at like 5, and your route is like at 12. So how would you approach this situation? So let's play this full speed. He comes off the ball, attacks him, takes the inside release, gives him a move, and then he's able to win on that corner route. Now, you see here, this DB's outside shade for one reason, because look how close this wide receiver is to the hash. So he's automatically assuming, because it's one-on-ones, but this could also be a situation where you're in an actual game, you have trips left, and the single wide receiver cut his split down closer to the O-line. A smart DB will play there, because he's thinking, okay, if he wants to run a drag, that's one of the only reasons he would cut his split down, fine. I got maybe some kind of help over there. 2, the only reason he cuts his split down is to run something outside breaking. So that's why DB's there. So we have to get comfortable with this. So what a lot of wide receivers will do in this situation, they'll approach it just like how number 1 approaches it right here. They'll close the space, they'll attack him, but they try to give a fake inside, then take an outside release. I'm going to tell you this right now, a disciplined DB will not give up the outside shade. He will not do it. He is taught to force him inside. I got help to the inside. He's probably not going to be running a post or a dig with that kind of split, because he's going to be running into other routes on the field. He's probably going to use the space he created by cutting his split down. So a disciplined guy will just sit there. So if that's your only plan of action, is to give him a move inside, then force the outside release, if he gets hands and he squeezes you to the sideline and you run this corner with only about maybe 5 to 8 yards for the quarterback to lead you, that's an impossible throw for him. He will not throw it. It will either be out of bounds, or he will go to another receiver or run the ball, because that's not enough space for him to throw you open. Let's give the QB space to throw me open. So he attacks him and takes the inside release. So we close the space at 5. Now we give him a move, take the inside release, and what hand does he beat? He beats the inside hand. He knows, I don't need to worry about this hand. I just need to worry about beating the inside hand, because I'm trying to take the inside release. So he takes the inside release. He's able to stack. He's able to give him a move to the inside, get this DB to hesitate a bit. But look at this. He's breaking this thing off right next to the hash. That QB's got, 20 yards of space to lead him? That is a quarterback's dream. When he's got this guy stacked and we got 20 yards to throw him open, that's the easiest throw ever. And that's because we understand how to do the uncomfortable things with my routes. That's what will get you a ton of separation. That's what could make you separate from other receivers on your team, is your ability to run a quarterback-friendly route. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. So make sure, fellas, to run insane routes, to be able to get open with a ton of separation, you have to do the things that are uncomfortable sometimes. Play it again, full speed. Great job attacking, taking the inside release, and then giving that move to run out of that break. Okay, So now, to be able to get a lot of separation, fellas, you have to be able to cut in stride. So that's the next example that we're going to talk about here. So many wide receivers love to chop their feet. They love to run up into a route, chop their steps, prepare for a break, and they're never fluid and they're never able to cut in stride. So let's talk about it, right? So this first example here, wide receiver takes an inside release, single cut, and he's able to run this dig. That's a very, very hard thing to do, to cut off a 1 foot and run a 90-degree cut. So let's talk about how he's able to do it. So when you guys are running a route, it all comes down to selling what? What do we need to make the DB think I'm doing every single time? I'm selling fade, right? I'm trying to make him think I'm running deep. We're trying to make him think you took an inside release and you were trying to work back outside to run a fade right now. So you have to make sure that you have a good pad level. Got to make sure that you're running hard, but you have to make sure you're running in full stride. So that's what this wide receiver does such a great job of. There's no change. His pad level looks the same. He's not slowing down. His strides don't start to shorten. We call all of those indicators. When you give a DB an indicator, that's when we get locked up. But if you want to get an insane amount of separation, you got to keep the same stride, same everything. It's got to be, you should be able to take a picture of you at 5 yards and a picture of you at 12 where the break point is, and you should look the exact same. So when you guys are running this route, we have to get comfortable cutting in stride. We cannot take choppy steps to prepare for this cut. We have to be comfortable cutting on a dime, as they say. So how do you do that? You have to make sure that we don't reach. We have to make sure that this cut leg isn't over-exaggerated to where I reach way outside my frame, I strike the ground on my heel, maybe I strike the ground on my tippy toes, and I'm off balance. You have to keep that cut inside of your shoulder frame so you can strike the ground on the middle arch of your foot. If you're sudden, you keep that foot inside your frame and you're able to cut on that middle arch, that can help you drive out in one step. That can help you maintain some balance on this cut. But what a lot of people do, like I said, they'll over-exaggerate and they'll reach. Now, another thing that is going to help with this is not a skill that is learned overnight. This is not a skill where you can just watch this video and then if you've never ran routes before, go out and do it. You'll hurt yourself. You have to focus on building leg strength, knee stability, ankle stability. All of those things will tie into this. That's why it's so important for wide receivers to get in the gym, work a lot of one-legged exercises, do a lot of things for explosiveness, because it helps you maintain that force on one leg and you have enough balance and stability to do this. So you have to tie in everything. You got to know the mechanics of the cut, but you also have to do the things off of the field to tie into this. Let's play this thing again full speed one more time. So to be able to get an insane amount of separation, fellas, we got to get comfortable cutting while I am running in full stride. Okay, so now last thing we're going to be talking about here, we're going to be showing a bad example and then a good example of a wide receiver off the line against press. So we're going to talk about attacking vertical. So let's watch this wide receiver. He gets locked up here. He's got this inside shade look and he tries to take an inside release. But watch his feet on this release. This is like the line of scrimmage, right? The start of the sideline here, start out of bounds. Watch his feet. His feet never cross this line. Barely cross the line, I guess I should say. But he's not threatening this DB anywhere. He's going very lateral with his movements. Now, there are times where maybe you could make a DB miss laterally, but if you got any kind of cushion with the DB, you want to be able to attack him vertically. That's the only way we're going to make him move. So if he wants to set him up with like kind of a move to the outside like so, instead of stepping laterally, which doesn't threaten this DB at all when he's watching our hips, we should be stepping vertically. We should be stepping here, actually threaten him like you're going to be crossing his face, because that's what will get him to move. When that DB is right up on the line of scrimmage and like he's not giving you any space, okay, yeah, maybe I could do something like a split release, a fake, I can make him miss lateral. But if there's any kind of gap between you guys, catch technique, he's inside shade, any kind of gap, you have to threaten him vertically and attack him vertically if you want separation. So I'm going to play this again full speed, and then we're going to take a look at a good example of this. So now, this is Jerry Jeudy running a route. Now again, same type of coverage. We got about 2 yards of space. He's in this catch technique. Watch how he plays this thing. He closes the distance, and you see where he's making this guy miss. He's attacking him vertically, not horizontally. When he throws this crossover, again, he's closing space, and watch this crossover that he throws. It's a vertical step. He's actually stepping outside the DB's frame. Look at his hips. Look at his shoulders. That movement right there is what will get a DB to bite. That is what makes him think fade. If you were to step the opposite way, that is what makes him think you are crossing his face. But anytime that you have cushion with the DB, we want to close the cushion and we want to attack vertical. If he's right up on the line, not giving you any space, which is pretty rare, then you could maybe make him miss lateral, but we have to attack. Got a close cushion. We have to threaten vertically. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. This is a great example of how to be able to get insane separation, fellas. You have to close space, and you have to attack vertical. Let's play it again one more time. Great job by Jeudy showcasing that correct crossover and that catch technique situation. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.